I'm Jamie Floyd. I'm the founding brewer and part owner of Ninkasi Brewing Company in Eugene, Oregon. The thing that I tell people first and foremost is that, brewing is an art of sanitation and cleanliness, and that your real first task, and what I kind of liken it to snowboarding. The first thing that you should learn when you snowboard is how to fall down. And I think brewing is the same way, and what I mean by that is to not necessarily invest in all-grain brewing and get super into paying a lot of money about all that, because you probably are discerning and you want to enjoy the beer that you make. And until you create a clean platform for you to brew beer in, you're going to make beer that, no matter how much resources you put into, is going to have questionable results for yourself. And so I always tell people to embrace extract brewing and to embrace the rituals of cleanliness, because honestly, your kitchen and your bathrooms, which is the two more common places outside of garages, they have lactobacillus and pediococcus at the highest rates, which are the most common wort spoilers. And it doesn't hurt you, but it makes beer taste bad. So if you want nice, clean beer, work on your process. Work on your process. Clean, clean, clean. And that's the real deal. That's no matter whether you're a home brewer or a professional brewer, you are a glorified janitor, and that's the kind of role. So that's the part that can be tough for some people who may not have that as a personality trait. A lot of brewers typically do have sort of a type A, towards cleanliness in one way or another. So that's one of the things that I think is, really inspiring as far as just general brewing goes. It's just to make sure that you take each step so that it's really fulfilling that goal in mind, and then spend the money later on. All the equipment that you buy for extract brewing applies to the greater scheme of brewing for the most part anyway, except for maybe a plastic bucket or something. So for the most part, you're not losing any money by doing it that way, and you can attain a higher level of achievement the way that snowboarding, after a couple of times, once you learn how to fall down, it doesn't hurt so much and it becomes fun. So you want to get to the fun part before you start getting real technical, or you'll be real frustrated. And I think that that's the way. It goes back all the way to Charlie Papazian and relax and enjoy a homebrew. It's like you want to create a situation in which you're actually enjoying the beer that you make, because that's the great relationship that we have with beer, is that we get to enjoy it at the end of the day.
And you mentioned yesterday you let us try some of your beers on the bus on the way to the hop farm. Could you talk a little bit about flaked? One of them had
flaked barley.
Flaked barley. You talk about what flaked. It interested me. Could you talk about a little bit what flaked ingredients can add to your beer? Yeah,
absolutely. Nuptiale is a cream ale that we made for my business partner's wedding 3 years ago, and that beer has flaked barley in it, and that is the part of a cream ale that makes it so creamy and smooth. And so it's a mouthfeel orientation. Flaked oats do the same thing. That's why oatmeal stouts are very creamy as well. But they actually, have kind of a toasted flavor. They have a flavor outside of that, whereas flaked barley is barley. So it's flaked, and it gives that creaminess, but it's not changing the flavor profile of the beer per se. So you can use that in that beer. Made in the Shade, which you also sampled, I think, yesterday. The double, or not the double IPA, it's an IPA, an alternate IPA. Jeff Allsworth and a few other people have deemed it a summer IPA. And that comes from the drinkability factor for how hoppy it is. And that beer also employs flaked barley. I had mentioned that we don't use crystal malts in our IPAs. This one has flaked barley in it and some Vienna malt rather than Munich and Carahel in it, and that all gives it that creaminess to it that makes a super hoppy beer really even easy to drink still. So it has more IBUs and slightly more alcohol than Total Domination, and a different hop characteristic to it, a lot of really complexity in the hop varieties. But that flaked barley really allows for that. And then there's a third beer that Otis Oatmeal Stout obviously has oats in it. And it's, allows for it. That beer is about an alcohol, percent higher than the style guidelines, and 7.2, and is in also 50 instead of the 40 IBUs for the balance of that. So it's a little bit out of the style guidelines, but those oats really is what allow for that drinkability. We also use Fuller's yeast strain for our ales primarily, except for alts and stuff that are different. But that yeast strain also lends itself to that sort of creamy mouthfeel and sensibility. I make a beer for Burning Man called Transcendental, which has kind of a cream ale base. It's much less alcohol than the Nuptiale. It's 4.9% alcohol. but it has lavender and tarragon and like IPA kind of aroma levels.
Wow.
But no bitterness, you know, so it's just a savory sort of beer, and it also has flake barley, so it has that drinkability while you have all those intense aromas. It's still really easy to drink. And so it's kind of a fun thing to add to beers that really doesn't change it also can help with some head retention and some foam stability stuff as well. So flake products are kind of good for beer. You know, you get I mean, flake corn, you're starting to get into some other aspects of brewing, of course, but you can really use pre-gelatinized or flaked malted products as well. So there's other things like amaranth that I actually had that I've used in beers in the past, and you can find other grains that have gone through that sort of malting slash you know, pressed flake sort of situation, which sort of allows for the starches to come out a lot easier. Cool. And it's that transition of the starch in that more usable form that allows it for that creaminess, so it doesn't go through the same enzymatic process.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. Yeah.
You bet. Thank you.